Hi there, this is James Swanwick, and you're listening to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast, where you learn how to take back control over alcohol and live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness. I am James Swanwick. Welcome to another episode of the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle. Today I have another host of another podcast about how alcohol is shit. In fact, he's the author of a book that's actually named Alcohol is Shit. His name is Paul Church, and he is the host of the Recovery Elevator podcast. Paul, welcome. How you doing?
Hey, James. I'm good, thanks. I'm doing great. It's great to be here with you. I've been hearing your name in this space for several years now, so it's fun to connect with you in person, over the airwaves, on a podcast, and I'm looking forward to the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever.
Yeah, I read your book in 2019, Alcohol is Shit, which is a great title, by the way. Let me just kick off by asking you, why do you feel alcohol is shit?
Okay. Well, I personally had to test that theory, that book title out with firsthand experience. I don't know, a couple thousand times, right? I was a normal drinker for a while, until probably the age of 22. I could take it or leave it. And then something flipped with it, right? I found myself drinking more than I used to. Really to go after that same effect, that same buzz, that same drunk, whatever. But really, if you just boil down alcohol, alcohol is ethanol, which you need a couple additives to make it palatable. You don't need a lot of experimentation to recognize this. If you drink enough of it in one sitting, you will die. And sometimes there are arguments that a little bit of red wine is healthy for you. Well, those are the polyphenols in the grape skins, in the tannins of the grapes. Alcohol by itself is pure shit. And by the numbers, alcohol is the most deadly drug on the planet. It kills more people each year than every other drug combined. Now, I want to be clear, my podcast isn't against alcohol, whatever. If you're a normal drinker, please drink one for me. I have just personally reached the conclusion 6 years ago in September 2014 that alcohol was not in line with my future goals. In fact, I had a mantra on my wall that I typed out and printed out. It said, if you want this alcohol, then you can't have that. And that was referring to hopes and dreams, a career, a family, all that fun stuff. And then on the second side of that mantra was, if you want that, your hopes and dreams, then you can't have alcohol. It was really that simple. It took a while to get there with the inner dialogue. There's some cognitive dissonance there. You wake up in the morning and say, I'm done drinking for the rest of my life. And then later that night you're drinking. You got to get past those mental roadblocks. And I think that's the hardest thing about alcohol. And it's kind of the societal norm. It's everywhere. But really on this side of it, it's been a little bit of time since my last drink. It's not even a sacrifice. And when I first quit drinking, that's how I looked at it was, oh man, I'm going through life as like, I can't do something. I go to this party and I can have all kinds of drinks, but I can't do that. So I was looking at it as a life without alcohol was a sacrifice. Here I am right now. My goodness, it is an incredible opportunity. It's a rocket fuel. It's like an ace up the sleeve. And I've learned that the stigma is fake, James. And when people actually ask, what do I do for a living? I don't shy away from it. It's like, oh, I got a podcast about alcohol addiction. I mean, it opens up so many doors because this is the Kevin Bacon thing, but it's 1 degree of separation. Everybody knows somebody who is struggling with alcohol or was trying to quit. So yeah, it's like a major point of connection with other people when I open about my struggles with alcohol or about my desire to quit drinking. It took me a while to get there, but right now I think alcohol is shit. And again, if people out there listening who drink normally, not a problem. Drink one for me.
How old are you now, Paul?
James, I am 39 years old. I live in Bozeman, Montana. For work, I do a podcast called Recovery Elevator, and for fun, I like to get outside. I got a standard poodle named Ben. We got a mountain bike. We do a bunch of hikes. It's so beautiful here in Montana, especially in the summertime. And in the wintertime, I spend that more in warmer climates. I surf in Costa Rica. I was in Colombia this last winter for a while, and yeah, I love it up here.
Amazing. So you're 39 now. How old were you when you finally said enough and you kicked it to the curb?
Yeah, 6.5 years ago. So I'm pretty sure that was 33. Yeah, 33. Yeah. And I first in 2010, so I was probably 28 or 29. On January 1st, I stopped drinking for 2.5 years. Now, looking back on that, James, all I did was go off willpower. I was like, I'm not drinking no matter what, like solid line in the sand. But eventually with willpower, that's an exhaustible muscle. And again, I was living life like it was a sacrifice. I drank again. And then I was by a couple years where I was like, man, maybe I can take it, leave it. I can handle a drink or two here and there. And occasionally I did handle a drink or two here and there, but those times were fewer and farther in between. And then summer of 2014 got pretty damn ugly, James. I got a DUI while driving to work, failed suicide attempt. And it just got bad. But I reached that moment where luckily it was a clear decision. Alcohol has to go, or else I'm most likely going to go. It's just a matter of time. Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, it seems like it was running away from pain. So you decided to quit alcohol to avoid pain. I'm curious. Sorry. First of all, is that correct? Is that clear? Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's actually, it totally is, right? But sometimes people are told if you continue to drink, your liver will shut down and you'll die, right? And that always works in the short term. So for sure, I could see the writing on the wall. It was clear. If I continued to drink, nothing good was going to come out of that. Most likely suicide. And all those yets of like, well, I haven't really lost my job yet. You haven't been fired or divorced or bankruptcy yet. Like all those yets, they were just around the corner. So I could see it clearly. And I said, if I don't do something now about this, life will do something about it, whether it be a correctional facility or whatnot. So you are correct.
Yeah. So your main goal there was to avoid pain. And one thing I've learned from studying human psychology, in fact, there's a professor at the University of Texas, Professor David Buss. He's always saying to me, human beings are always ever trying to avoid pain or get reward, right? So avoid pain, move towards pleasure. Avoid pain, get reward. So for you, it seems very clear that you were wanting to avoid pain of DUI, possible suicide. Thank you for sharing, being vulnerable enough to share that with us. Losing a job, like pain. You wanted to avoid that. There are other people, probably less so around alcohol, who might quit alcohol to get the reward, right? And the rewards could be clarity, focus, energy, more sales in their business, attract their dream partner, have an amazing relationship, raise a family. And that's the reward bias, right? So I often ask my clients, I say, if I gave you $1 billion, if I offered you $1 billion never to drink again, would you drink again? And they all 100% of them say, oh yeah, I'd never drink again. So I say to them, well, in actual fact, you can quit drinking. You're just choosing not to. But for you, in that case, it's a choice because their why or their reason doesn't seem to be big enough, right? If I offer them $1 billion, they'll say, yes, I would quit drinking and never touch alcohol again. Yet it's the same people who are saying it's so hard. Oh, I had a reset. Oh, this is really challenging. So I'm curious whether you think a big enough reward could make someone quit drinking, or is there too much kind of deep-rooted fundamental issues going on with people that even with the temptation of $1 billion, they would still drink?
Yeah, and addiction is complicated, and it also can be pretty simple too. It's a disconnection, right? So the reward, it has to be greater to or equal in value than the pain that the alcohol is covering up. So I got into drinking because of pain, right? There was inner turmoil. There was, perhaps childhood trauma. I felt better when I drank. There was an underlying reason why I continue to drink alcohol, right? So that's a great question, is if the reward is bigger than the drivers of pain, which cause people to reach for an external substance to find that internal wholeness. And yeah, a lot of people think, oh, it's got to be that easy. It's just, maybe there's a professional athlete who gets this job and we'll have to worry about money. Well, why do they keep relapsing? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I don't know. What would you say with that? If someone offered you the reward for you, what would you do?
I mean, I would, because I haven't drunk since 2010, I'd say, you want to give me $1 billion? I'll take the $1 billion. I'll never drink again. I'm confident, supremely confident that I would never drink again. But I'd have to switch it out with something that wasn't to do with alcohol. Like if someone said, I'll give you $1 billion and you could never talk to your family again, well, I would definitely turn that down, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I'll give you $1 billion and you can never eat these biscuits out of Australia called Arnott's barbecue shapes. Oh, I'd have to really think about that one. I'd probably still take the $1 billion, but I'd probably think about it for a while.
Sure. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I was not expecting that, but yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So, what has happened in your life since you made that choice to give up the booze? So what have been some of the obvious benefits that have come into your life? Some that you intentionally called in and some that maybe unintentionally came in.
For sure. Okay. So I've always been an entrepreneur, James. I've had a lemonade stand when I was a kid. Um, DJ'd all the fraternities in the Greek system when I was in college, and had my own DJ business. And then early college, right after college, I went to Spain at the age of 23, and I bought a bar in Granada. And so, I had a drinking problem back then. And I understand not all of your listeners on this podcast are like straight up drinking problems, and maybe they might eventually get there. Hope not. But for me, that was the case. And so I'm running a business as an entrepreneur at age 23, just out of college, ready to tackle the world. Um, and kind of the opposite happened. I got tackled by the world, by alcohol while I was in Spain, and it was the best and worst time of my life. And after that, I had an adult sports business. We did a flag football, dodgeball, floor hockey, trivia, all that stuff. And this is like 2012, 13. And I had an arcade. I had several arcades across the state of Montana. Then I had a DJ business. We're DJing about 100. We did do about 150 weddings a summer in the state of Montana. All of that with a ton of fog in my brain around me, right? And a lot of shame because I'd wake up. I was coaching football too. I was coaching football in 2013, and I would go to football practice, never drunk, but I was just hungover, just foggy, operating all that stuff. And the key behind this is the presence, right? You're never quite fully present. And I feel that's the best gift you can give somebody is your full, undivided attention. And if you've got a headache or your body is upset or your stomach's mad at you, you're not fully present. And also, there's this thing called alcohol that can make all those symptoms go away. So you're always thinking, or at least I was. I'm like, man, when can I fix this? When can I fix this? So when I did finally quit drinking in 2014, the rooms of 12 steps, it's like the pink cloud is what it's called. Everything just lifted. I felt so much better physically, James. I lost probably 20 to 25 pounds. I was happy. I recognized that I didn't need alcohol to have fun. And I was able to rechannel a lot of this energy that was going towards drinking because it is so physically exhausting, James, to think of when your next drink is going to be, where you're going to get it, perhaps where you're going to hide it from. Is it going to run out? Will it run out? Will there be a substantial supply? All that stuff, that takes a lot of mental energy and bandwidth. And when you finally make the decision, when I was done with all the moderation shit, believe me, I tried like 100 different ways to moderate. Zero came in successful. It liberates so much energy. And I was able to put that into my dog, my friends, my relationships. But as an entrepreneur, this is something that I love. I've always been an entrepreneur. I was able to learn how to podcast, right? I recognized that I wanted a little bit more accountability, actually a lot more accountability on my journey. And so I learned all that, learned how to podcast, learned how to do a website, the graphic designing programs that eventually turned into a private membership community that eventually turned into retreats, alcohol-free travel trips. And so many doors were opened for something that I love, and I'm an entrepreneur. So it just happens I like building businesses. And I was good at it before, but man, it was like I strapped on a rocket ship on my back and just crushed it. And I will say, I kind of replaced the alcohol with work. Listeners might need to watch out for that. I call that addiction whack-a-mole, where you push down the alcohol and something else takes its place. But hell, working 60 hours a week wasn't quite killing me at the clip of blacking out 7 nights a week. It's just way healthier, right? And then later on in life, I was like, all right, I'm kind of stressed. I'm working a lot. And I ended up selling those 3 businesses. And now all I do is Recovery Elevator. Which is the passion project of a lifetime. My goodness, it's so rewarding. And you're in the same field. To see somebody else getting your message. I checked out your 30-day challenge program. That looks freaking awesome. To see When one person takes your course and they get it, that's the payment enough. You don't need any more payment just to see that somebody got it. And then knowing that that person is probably going to talk to somebody in their family, their neighborhood, or their brother, their family, whatever, and they're going to pass that message. That's the best currency that I've ever come across.
Mm. Yeah, it's incredibly rewarding to see someone come in and ask for help, get support and help, and then see them transform in front of your eyes. And then I always say, and which you just touched on there, the transformation is not just in one person, is it? The transformation is then in all of the people that that person comes into contact with, because those people then see their new elevated being, and they're like either secretly or verbally so inspired by the fact that they've lost weight, they're happier, they're more connected, they're more intentional, they're more present, they're doing better in their job, they're healthier, they start talking about the fact that they're alcohol free consistently. Some people who are, listening are kind of either secretly thinking, oh, I think I should cut back on my alcohol too. Wow, I'm really impressed by Paul. Like, it's incredible how healthy he looks. Wow, his skin is glowing. I think I'm going to cut back, or I'm going to eat better, or I'm going to start going to the gym, or I'm going to be more intentional. I'm going to spend more time with my kids. So it's not just helping one person. You're helping families and colleagues and friends and acquaintances and future generations. So, not for this to be a kind of love fest, but thank you and congratulations for the amazing work that you do in inspiring people to change their lives, which in turn inspires lots of other people to change their lives.
Yeah, beautifully said, James. In fact, I wish I knew the name, but I met somebody this last December. I was at a retreat in Costa Rica who took one of your courses, and it was the same thing. He's like, yeah, man, it changed my life. Through 2 or 3 years ago, he took one of your courses and just, yeah, you changed that guy. And then to find out 4 months later, I'm going to be on your podcast. I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's synced. It's an incredible journey, and we have to fix ourselves, right? You hear a lot about the climate change and universe, and we don't have to save the planet or the earth. We have to fix ourselves, and everybody has to do this on the micro level, right? We all individually have to address what's holding us back. And for many of us who are listening to this podcast or struggle with drinking, that's the one domino, James, is going to knock all the others down. Seriously, you quit drinking, that's a challenge, right? It's doable, very doable with dudes like yourself and programs like you put on, James. But once you do that and you get control of it, all the other little issues in your life, it should just go away. Well, not just go away, but like you're going to have the consciousness and the energy and the desire and just the clear mind to do so. Yeah, it's incredible how removing one thing from my life 6.5 years ago has opened up so many doors. It's amazing.
Yeah. The first door that I consciously was aware that it opened up for me was realizing my childhood dream. And I wouldn't have realized my childhood dream unless I had quit drinking months earlier. And that childhood dream was hosting a television show. So I quit in 2010. I was in Austin, Texas at the South by Southwest Festival. I had 2 Bombay Sapphire gin and tonics on a Friday night at an industry party. Didn't get drunk, but went home to my hotel 20 minutes north of Austin, went to sleep, woke up in the morning, looked in the mirror, and just realized I was a bit weathered in the face. I was just kind of blah. I put on a bit of weight. I wasn't fat, but I had a bit of a tummy, and I was just tired, and I could taste the gin in my mouth from the night before. And I went to an IHOP, International House of Pancakes, right next door to the hotel. And I sat in the IHOP, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I just said, you know what, I'm going to commit to 30 days alcohol free and see what happens. And so I did. I lost 13 pounds in 30 days, which was kind of crazy.
Wow.
My skin got better. I started sleeping much better. My anxiety and irritation dropped. And I set this, as well as doing a 30-day no alcohol challenge for myself, I did this 30-day help my friends challenge. I didn't tell anyone about it. But I just each day I'm just going to call up a friend and say, hey, what's going on? Can I help you with anything? And I did that for 30 days. And about 6 weeks later, I got a call from one of those friends who I'd helped. And he said, hey, ESPN's looking for a international anchor for SportsCenter. I thought you'd be really good for it. Do you want me to introduce you to the producer? And I'm like, hell yeah. And I didn't have any TV experience. And because I had the clarity and the focus and the drive, and now the confidence that I didn't have with alcohol, I like went for that job. And I auditioned and I got the gig, and then I ended up hosting SportsCenter on ESPN for 2 years. And would that have happened if I had been drinking? No way. Because if I was drinking, I would have just, dragged my ass, been lethargic. I wouldn't have taken all of those necessary steps and had that focus and that drive to fly from Los Angeles to Bristol, Connecticut, do the audition and get the gig. So, that in itself, if I die tomorrow, I'm dying a happy man, because I fulfilled what was my childhood kind of dream, And I see it all the time with people who quit drinking, whether they're doing my programs or other people's, or they're doing it themselves. It's incredible what they can create in their life when they remove this attractively packaged poison.
I know a little bit about the beast of ESPN and that machine, and they don't just pick scrubs off the street. It's an incredibly impressive story, and you're right. There's no way that would have worked out for you if your consciousness was dipped, right? And that's what alcohol does to us. And I saw that photo on your website with Jennifer Aniston, and listeners, you can't see James right now, but I mean, he's completely transformed. He's the man. Look at him. He looks great.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Hi, James here. Just a quick note from our sponsor, Project 90. If you want to get long-term power over your drinking, then the way that I know best to do that is through coaching, accountability, fun, community, and investing in yourself. If you're willing to go without alcohol for 90 days so you can get ultimate power over your drinking, which can mean you remain alcohol-free for life, or you do moderation, whichever way you choose, you'll have long-term power over alcohol. Alcohol won't have power over you. If that sounds good to you and you'd like that, then you're welcome to book a complimentary call with one of my trained coaches. You can schedule a call over at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. That's alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Or you can send me a text to the number 44222 if you're in the US, of course. Doesn't work outside of the US. Just text me the word Project 90 to the number 44222, and I'll send you back a calendar link where you can schedule your call. So if you're ready to do this, you've been listening enough, the time is now. You're willing to go 90 days without alcohol so you can live a better life long-term afterwards, even if you're having an occasional drink here or there, then book your call and let's see if Project 90 is for you. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question, somewhat political question, but also not political question. But there was a story in the news recently where the White House and President Biden did a partnership with Anheuser-Busch, creators of Budweiser beer, where they were saying, if you get the vaccine, for people who aren't vaccinated, if you get the vaccine, we'll give you free beer. I'm not sure if you saw it in the news. Did you see? Are you familiar with this?
I did not, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So I'm just curious. Forget any pros or cons about the vaccine, right? Forget the vaccine part of that. This is not a conversation about that. The fact that the White House and a sitting president is actively encouraging people to take any action, and will reward you with beer, free beer. What are your initial thoughts on that? I appreciate you don't know the full story, but like, what's your initial reaction to that?
I'd say, damn, that's a smart marketing campaign. As I mentioned earlier, that's the most addictive drug in the world. And that's probably going to get the most action out of people. So good on them. I think it's totally effed. I do. Right. I mean, there's 20 or 30 million people in America alone with an AUD, an alcohol use disorder. But hey, if you want to put a carrot on a stick or a gold bar on a stick in front of somebody, that's alcohol, right? And you're going to get people to move. They're not for the carrot, but for the booze, for more importantly, the alcohol inside there. And for many people, alcohol is not a problem, but if you drink enough of it over time and the environment is correct, it's going to turn on you. It will. So, man, that's part of me is like, that's genius. You could not have picked a better thing. The other side of that is, we've got a ways to go. And I do think after this pandemic fades away of COVID-19, we will return to the previous pandemic, which was already front and center, but now it's going to be here even more. And that's the mental health, addiction, anxiety, depression pandemic, where that has been bubbling to the surface for quite some time. And we've heard a lot about the opioid crisis, but again, alcohol and alcoholism, those numbers dwarf or completely dwarf the opioid crisis, and just those numbers don't pale to the devastation and wreckage of alcohol. Let me ask you on that, James. What do you think of that
Well,
marketing
I tell you,
campaign?
I very rarely voice my political opinions or anything to do with politics. I just tend to stay out of it and keep my views private. But when I read that, I posted on my Instagram. I've since taken it down, actually, because a couple of days later afterwards, I took it down. I rethought it. But I posted, initially, I posted something when I said, I've lost all faith in any government official, any politician, any health official after today's announcement that the White House is encouraging people to drink beer in order to get the vaccine, right? So I initially posted that, and then I thought, maybe I'm being in reactionary mode here and instead of response. And then I dialed it back again and I changed it. And I said, I'm very disappointed with President Biden and the White House over their decision today, or over, them trying to get people to take the vaccine with the lure of free beer. Again, I've got no commentary about the vaccine. I've just got commentary about offering beer, right? Offering alcohol to its citizens in order to get them to take an action. My view is I thought it was outrageous, preposterous, completely lacking in any sense or any leadership. I thought it was a disgrace. I think what I posted was the government, or President Biden and the White House, is trying to get people to take the vaccine, which reportedly kills people with compromised health, by getting them to drink something that compromises your health.
Yeah, that by the numbers kills just as many people as COVID each year, if not more, right?
It has to be more. It must be more. It can't.
Yeah,
must pale in comparison to alcohol.
It's like 4 million is around COVID right now, and 3 million for alcohol worldwide. But if you go in for heart disease, and there's so many that you die from alcohol, but it goes down to something else. So I've read it's 3 million, but it's projected like 10 to 20 million worldwide. Yeah. So in my opinion, alcohol is much. Yeah, you're fixing the COVID vaccine, fixing COVID, right? But then you're giving them something more dangerous and deadlier. But like if the two most deadliest drugs on the planet are legal, and that's tobacco and alcohol, and my podcast, I don't think you're saying either, isn't saying to illegalize alcohol. We've tried that in the 20s and it didn't work. But yeah, there's some things to be a little bit more considerate, maybe like a prepaid Visa debit card, right? There's 30% of Americans who don't drink at all. And not everybody was kung fu fighting, right? You just think everybody drinks. But I think maybe a little bit of Bitcoin, or maybe a prepaid debit card for your vaccine might be a better way. And also people under 21 might need that vaccine too.
Yeah. Anything other than just have some poison and have some toxins.
Yeah. Maybe a pizza.
Well, I don't know about pizza as well.
Yeah. It's not much healthier, but
they've been trying to incentivize people to get the vaccine with Dunkin' Donuts and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, what? Oh man! I as someone who is not a practitioner, but that's the wrong word. As someone who is health conscious, let's say, I just shake my head at some of the things that people have been doing to try to get people to take action around the vaccine. I'm like, your suggestions are infinitely better than what they've rolled out so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had 33 seconds to think about it, but I'm sure you came up with many more too. I will be Googling about that, and I'll probably podcast about that as well.
Yeah.
I did not know about that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Hey, what do you drink instead? If not alcohol, what are some stuff that's not water that do you drink instead?
Yeah, for sure. I was just in Colombia, and my goodness, they've got an incredible fleet of alcohol-free beverages. And I did a YouTube video about how to make tamarind and limeade. That's a huge, like tamarind paste and turn into tamarind limeade. It's delicious. My go-to when I go out is a soda water with a splash of cranberry. When I say splash, I'm talking like a quarter of the cup is cranberry with a lime wedge. I don't drink NA beers, not because some of them have a 0.5 alcohol content. I just prefer the taste of something better. Like a fresh squeezed lemonade, you really can't beat that. If throwing like a strawberry lemonade, I even sometimes order a Shirley Temple. Not to be funny or silly, those things are delicious. They're so good. And so the complaint or the thought, what am I going to drink if I'm not drinking? I mean, there's so many more things that that won't kill you if you drink enough of it. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. And what do you hear is the biggest resistance from folks who follow you or support you? What's their biggest resistance around quitting alcohol? Do you find?
Yeah. A lot of it's the stigma. Um, we think there's a stigma surrounding drugs and alcohol. What I have found is that stigma is fake. With the 1 to 2% of the times where the stigma is true, that's a good filter. Those are friends, family, coworkers, bosses, employers that you don't want anything to do with. So that just eliminated toxicity from your life. That's a good thing. The other 98, 99% of people, when you open up about drinking, they recognize that is a connection point. You say, wow, this person's being vulnerable. Then they are going to say, oh, well, I'm also questioning my alcohol intake, or my friend, my family, my brother. And another one here, James, is we're going up against, okay, so first one, the stigma. What are people going to think? And number two is we're going up against the unconscious. There's a big part of me that was like, hey, I really want to quit drinking. But the unconscious, which is how you live your life, how you go through difficult emotional charges in the stomach and life, it needs alcohol. So probably the biggest factor that's holding people back is themselves, but they don't know. They're not kind of aware of those parts of the personality that are holding them back. Yeah, those are the two big ones that I see of why they can't drinking. But one of them isn't quite as clear as the unconscious. It's there, but it's just, and I couldn't see it. Right? It's just like, oh, I want to quit drinking, but then why do I keep drinking every night?
What's the one thing that you would say to someone? Someone's in the street and they say, "Hey, Paul, how do I quit drinking?" You got 20 seconds with them. How do I quit drinking, Paul? What do you say to them?
For sure. I would say burn the ships. Open up to your closest friends, your family, and let them know. Have a one-way conversation that you can't pull those conversations back. You're going to create that accountability. That accountability is inevitably always going to open up into community, right? So you can't quit drinking alone. It doesn't have to suck. It could be fun. You can do it with other people. I know it's 20 or 25 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't have to do it alone, but why do you think we human beings still think we can?
Okay. I think two main reasons for that. Number one, the stigma. We feel like we have to. We can't open up about our deepest, darkest secret that I can't control my drinking. Well, there's you and about 50 other million people, or probably on the planet, probably 150 million people. So that's the big one. There's a stigma. We think we have to do it alone. Another reason is, well, I just went blank on you there. Yeah, first reason we can't do it alone. And the other one is it's the unknown, right? I think another reason why it's so hard to quit drinking is it's the unknown. The circuitry in the brain is anything is a snapshot from the past up till now. So life without alcohol, it's really just not there. Like we can't vision it. We can't see it. The circuitry isn't quite built there. And stepping in that far outside of the comfort zone, it's like too much sometimes.
Yeah. And how long do you think it takes for people to realize that for people to actually see that they can do it? Like, how long into the process do you feel it is? Is it days, weeks, months?
Yeah, that's a good question. For somebody who's been drinking every night for a decade, logging that first night, ooh, that's a big one. That's a big one, right? As far as the traction goes, there's something magical, or there's something about those 12-step dates of the 30, 60, 90 a year and the 2 years. The 30 days is a big one. Many can go a week, but logging those 30 days, that's and you have a 30-day challenge, right? You've probably experimented with those dates. That's a big one. The 2 year mark too. I read somewhere where 2.5 people out of 1,000 make it to 2 years without alcohol. Now you can keep trying over and over and over, right? So 2.5 people out of 1,000 will make it to 2 years once they make the decision to quit drinking. Again, you can keep making that decision over and over. So you can start over as many times as you want. But the study I read shows that once you hit 2 years, that's you're not good for life. If your goal is to stay sober or away from alcohol your whole life, but once you hit 2 years, most of those people I don't want to say good to go, but they're doing all right. They're doing good.
Mm.
And some people go to AA, some people don't, right? But the ones that make it 2 years, that's kind of the launching point. But anytime, listeners, I want to reiterate that. I hate the word only in our community when people sign up and they say, hey, I'm only on day 3. I just cringe because anytime away from alcohol, especially if you've been drinking for the last couple of decades or maybe 3 months straight on a deep binge, anytime away from alcohol, again, the world's most addictive drug, that's a win. That's a huge win. So, listeners, I want you to reframe it from saying, I'll be fine or like, I'll be happy when I have 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. You need the time frame. We live in psychological time. We have to have those barometers for success. But you hear it one day at a time, and it's kind of cliche, but really, like if you're just doing it now with that alcohol, that's a hell yes. It's a big win. And if you keep doing that, you're going to look down at your calendar and say, oh shit, 15 days, 20 days, 30 days.
Mm. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, effective or ineffective?
Yeah. Oof, the only chapter I deleted in my book, James, was it's called The Current State of Addiction. It was like a 14-page chapter on the treatment modalities and what works. Well, after I wrote that chapter, I found out that nothing works. Or shall I say, is nothing really has a promising success rate. And the best study that I could find on AA, and this might piss people off listening right now, is the high single digits. It's like an 8 to 9%.
That's what I've read as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And even like your $30,000 30-day in treatment rehabs, those are like the low teens. But I'm a big fan of AA. I still go. I probably go once a week, maybe once a month. Sometimes I go 3 months. I love going to AA when I travel. It's instant community. You just meet a bunch of friends. So I look at more as community, as to meet other people who are also have a shared common interest of not drinking shit or poison. But as far as quitting drinking, I mean, there's so many modalities. I think AA is great. It's something to try. I hate to hear people write it off because they heard something. Oh, I don't know. I don't believe in God or higher powers. Well, maybe you should go to a meeting or two. But it worked for me. But I also had to be ready for it. It worked, but also a ton of other modalities at the same time. I don't think it should only be AA. It should be collaboration, AA with talk therapy, with yoga, AA and meditation, AA and your 30-day program, AA or there's so many other things to do.
Mm. So if I was to say, what do you think is the most effective strategy, most effective method, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say moving the energy by terms of conversation with other like-minded individuals and with those who are closest to you in your life. I feel these addictions, and not everybody listening on this podcast is like fully addicted to alcohol. I get that. But these are adaptive behaviors, right? These are coping mechanisms, strategies. And I was self-medicating for a long time and it worked. Nice job, Paul, to figure out a way to get through life. But eventually it didn't work. And so I had to change my behavior. So the best way I would say it is to have those intimate conversations with your loved ones, therapist, a doctor. I mean, and by the way, I've talked with enough doctors and therapists that they have an internal equation. When you say, I drink 3 to 4 beers a night, they're multiplying that by 4 or 3, right? So be honest with them. There's a lot of resources out there, but you have to open up. Why are we so afraid to open up? Again, it's that unconscious that's saying, oh shit, I have to go way into the unknown. I've lived a long time without drinking. I don't know if I can do this. So it's almost like our unconscious kind of gets in front of us every single time.
Prescription drugs. What are your thoughts on prescription drugs to get you off alcohol?
For sure. I don't believe in that's the only way. I know naltrexone, that's a Sinclair method. It's an opioid antagonist blocker. So it just, you don't quite process alcohol the same way. We've had a lot of success with that in our community. But again, what happens if you don't decide, just don't take the pill, right? Psychotropics, antidepressants, I'm not quite versed on that. It helps. That stuff can help, right? So as we talked earlier, the success rates are pretty low. If you can have adjunct therapy, sometimes it might take a village or a whole medical team to help you out of this. And you might try things that don't work. I came off my antidepressant when I quit drinking. I came off my ADD meds after I quit drinking. But yeah, that stuff is kind of for everybody. I'm a firm believer that we were born with everything, the circuitry needed. There's nothing fundamentally flawed with us. And in the right environment, in the right setting, we should be just fine.
Yeah. And I think with the right mindset as well, right environment, right setting, right mindset. Instead of saying no to alcohol, say yes to everything, say yes to an alcohol-free life. That little mind shift can work wonders. Paul Church, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your guidance and wisdom. So great to connect with you, mate. Wonderful. Especially having read your book back in 2019. It's a real honor to have got to know you here.
James, I've been hearing your name for a while now. It's great to connect with you, and good stuff. Keep up the good work, my man.
And for the listener, you can check out Paul. He's the host of the Recovery Elevator podcast, which you can find in Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And he is the author of the book, Alcohol is Shit. Paul, thanks very much again, and we'll catch you on the next one.
James, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Alcohol Free Lifestyle podcast. I want to load you up with some free stuff right now. So if you want to go to jamesswanwick.com/guide, I will send you my Quit Alcohol Guide, which has helped six-figure entrepreneurs and top professionals reduce or quit drinking. You can also text the word QUIT GUIDE to the number 44222 if you're in the US, of course. It doesn't really work anywhere outside of the US. But if you're in the US on your mobile phone and you'd like that guide, text the word QUIT GUIDE to the number 44222, or you can go to jamesswanwick.com/guide. If you'd like to schedule a free 15-minute call with one of my top coaches, just an exploratory call to see if or how we can help you, then you can go to jamesswanwick.com/schedule, or you can text the word Project 90 to the number 44222 if you're listening in the US on a mobile phone. That's jamesswanwick.com/schedule, or you can text the word Project 90, that's one word, Project 90, to the number 44222. Feel free to send me a direct message over on my Instagram account, which is @JamesSwanwick. You can also watch video episodes of this podcast and a series of other educational videos on my YouTube channel, which is James Swanwick 1, or you can direct message me on Facebook @JamesSwanwickOfficial. And finally, a request. Would you please now write a short review of the podcast inside of the Apple Podcast app on your phone or on iTunes on your desktop computer? Would you please give the show 5 stars and write a quick 1 or 2 sentence review? This will help the show get in front of even more listeners, potentially transforming someone's life. You can rate and review the show inside of your Apple Podcast app on your phone or over on iTunes on your desktop. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time.